Hello, it's Anthony Chadwick from the Webinar Vet, welcoming you to another episode of VETchat, the UK's #1 veterinary podcast. I'm honoured and privileged to have Jade Statt on the line today. Jade is the co-founder of StreetVet, which is a fabulous charity that helps to support people on the street with their pets. Uh, I'm going to let Jade tell us a little bit about the story and how it formed and everything. But maybe Jade, obviously you're very well known in the profession, but I'm sure there will be people listening who amazingly don't know who you are. So perhaps if you can give us a little intro. Obviously, you're a veterinary surgeon. Tell us where and when did you qualify? If it's not too personal a question.
Oh man, the win. I graduated from Glasgow Vet School in 2002. I know, it's a long
So
time.
just 20 years. You really can't class yourself as a young vet anymore, Jade. I'm still
I
trying after
know.
32, but nobody takes me seriously.
No, I don't even like thinking about it. But yeah, no, Glasgow, born in Glasgow, went to Glasgow Vet School, graduated, went into small animal medicine, like clinics, did medicine certificate, had no inclination really of ever doing what I'm doing now. I don't think anyone that sets up a charity sort of plans to do that. And yeah, just had a real um, inclination that I wanted to volunteer or give my time back in some way. So that was kind of the kind of initial seed, I suppose, of street vet. And I looked into it, looked at going abroad and doing various different things, but I really, really wanted to do something in the UK and found it actually not as easy as I thought it would be to sort of volunteer my time like one day a week or something. So yeah, that's what started it in terms of me wanting to volunteer. And then, yeah, a chance meeting in 2016 with a homeless gentleman and his dog was what sort of gave me the impetus to get on and actually do something in the UK.
What a fabulous charity it is, sort of 6 years, 7 years in. So well known, multiple award winner, fellow of the Royal College. I mean, things have happened so quickly, and from the outside, we would look at it and say it's been an untrammeled success. But I'm sure along the way you've had, as well as the blessings of those things I've talked about, you've had some challenges as well. So perhaps tell us some of the high points and some of the times that you learn probably the most in the challenging times.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, I think whenever you look at something from the outset, it does look like things have just got, and it has gone on a ridiculous trajectory of speed, which has been a blessing and also sometimes really hard. Because yeah, when you start something like this, you don't really think that's what's going to happen. So initially, it's just a massive learning curve because I just wanted to go out and do this myself. And then there's a realization that Sam was doing it. And then there was the meeting of Sam and I and realizing that we thought it was way bigger than us and we needed to do something together. But yeah, getting I guess, everything in place. So dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure that everything was professionally sound so that we could get other professionals to do it safely. So, give 2 hours of their time and know that there was no risk to their MRCVS. That was a challenge. Like, we couldn't get anybody to insure us. The minute you start saying, drugs, the public, pavements, animals, people are like, no, high risk. No, we're not doing that. So, I'm talking about, I guess, public liability here, and employee liability was yeah, that was nearly a real stumbling block because without that we couldn't have proceeded any further. So that was a challenge to start with. Out of hours care, making sure that we had provision was a big challenge as well at the start. But I think the biggest sort of challenge throughout it really has been my naivety about what was involved in what we were actually doing. So, and how, in a way, I Street Vet was taking some of the most giving, compassionate human beings, which is what the veterinary profession is, in my opinion. The vets and the nurses wanting to go out there and give back and natural are. personality is to fix, right? And you're going out onto the streets with people who actually are probably have a life expectancy of less than 45 years old. And so what happened to me, I was meant to be speaking at VSGD, and I remember it exactly because I had to phone Ebony and tell her I wasn't going to come. Um, but one of my clients who I've been really, really close to, um, used to speak to every single day. Um, the week before, him and I had been on the Lorraine show with his dog, and the title of the section was "Street Vet Saved My Life." And a week later, him and his dog were found dead. Um, and
Mm,
I was done. I just was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not
mm,
doing this anymore. How have we created a charity that's going to be sending people like me who care out into a situation where you, you can't help but get involved in these people's lives because you're seeing them so regularly, and also
mm,
they trust you because you're talking to them about their pet, etc. And then have a situation where something like that happens, I was just like, what have I done? Like, I feel like I've created, veterinary medicine, mental health, all these things we already know are already on the radar. I had I suffer with my mental health. I've had recurrent depressive disorder, um, and part of that led me to doing street vet, to be honest. Um, but at that time, yeah, I sat there and I thought, I don't think this should continue. We don't have the correct support for people, and I think it's too much. Um, and yeah, I spoke to Rosie Allister. We sat down. We had some fairly good conversations. So Rosie Allister, chair of Vet Life Helpline,
yeah.
and looked at the benefits that volunteering brought to people and how we could try and improve the support so that we could continue in a way that I felt that we had a really good support system. Um, so yeah, it taught me so much about how our clients kind of give us the best that they have of themselves. So you see the best side because they don't want to disappoint you, they don't want to let you down sometimes. So in that particular instant, that client, Dean, he always showed up for me. He always, responded to me. But outside of that, he was, yeah, massively struggling, clearly. And
Right.
I didn't realize. So it's had a lot of learnings from providing better support for volunteers, acknowledging what we can do and what we can't do, and getting good safeguarding and things in place for the charity, but also about, I guess, protecting our clients in the future when we're doing, media things, and working out how we best want to. It's made me rethink a lot of media things that we do with StreetVet.
Mm. It's difficult, isn't it? Because whatever we do, even the small things that we do, so, I'm quite concerned about, well, no, very concerned about where the environment is going at the moment. And obviously that doesn't mean that I don't care about people. But I suppose we all have our different focuses, and we look as a company at the sustainable development goals. And, we all have individual different ones. And mine is sort of life on earth, because if we poison the last river and cut down the last tree, we'll understand we can't eat money. So we have to have somewhere to live on. And yet, what we can do often, I mean, you're doing a lot, but actually, even that little thing matters. And sometimes we can't solve all the problems because actually, in your case, the people themselves have to also step up to it. And I think we can end up, as vets wanting to be saviors, we save lives all the time, with our pets and things. And then sometimes it's really difficult when a pet passes away or we have to put it to sleep. We can see that as a failure. So we we can only do our best, I suppose, is the point I'm making, isn't it?
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think it was, yeah, just understanding that the biggest feeling, we did a feedback sort of survey with our volunteers, and one of the things they sort of reported feeling most in Street Vet, that was frustrating them, was helplessness. That they could go, they could do the vet bit,
Yeah.
but then they were walking away and leaving people in the same situation in which they found them. So I guess that
Hmm.
sparked the hostel scheme for us. We started looking at ways in which we could be involved in maybe more than just, not even just, because the veterinary care is massive for the owners, but more than the veterinary care, but actually helping our owners and our clients stay together by getting more
Mm.
hostels to accept pets. So I think that has helped,
Yeah.
with some of that helplessness that people feel. But yeah, the hostel schemes, by no means, not every hostel takes dogs now, but we're working on it. It's a long term project.
And again, it's holistic, isn't it? But a charity or anything starts in a small step and then it develops, doesn't it? And I think it's so important because seeing lads and girls on the street with dogs. Often this has been the problem that they can't get in anywhere, and they're not going to give their dog up because actually their dog is their best friend who has supported them through thick and thin when perhaps we humans, relationships and individuals have let them down. So I don't see many cats, but on the street I see quite a lot of people with dogs, and it is that huge connection for them, isn't it? And it kind of can make a pretty horrible situation seem just that bit more bearable, can't it?
Yeah. Well, that's
Having the
absolutely,
dog with
yeah.
them rather than
For
yeah,
most of our clients, they feel like their dog is their only family, their only sort of support network, and
yeah,
provide them a massive amount of mental health support where they may not have any access to that at all, in their situation. So, yeah, the dogs just give people well, we all know it ourselves. They give you a reason to
yes,
interact with other people. They give you a reason to get up in the morning because you need to walk the dog, you need to feed the dog, and it's definitely that whole sort of structure that people feel, and being responsible for someone else and having someone else need you, is a massive thing that our clients talk about when they're talking about their pets. So yeah, they will not go into a hostel without them. They will not go into a hospital. They will forgo a lot of their own needs because they will not, be parted from their pet. So yeah,
yeah.
the bonds that I've seen through Street Vet and the clients that I meet are um, yeah, just unbelievable relationships, to be honest.
It's interesting you were talking about the volunteers and saying that they feel that hopelessness because they can't get more involved, and obviously the hosteling is helping. We recently did our virtual congress and we were talking about regenerating hope, and that was particularly around the environment because it's such an existential threat, the climate crisis. How do we increase hope within the profession? Because sometimes I look and I say, gosh, there are people who are really struggling. I mean, volunteering for me is a big help. If you give something to somebody, you go out and you help with themselves and their dogs. You're giving something, but in my experience, whenever I've volunteered and done things, I always feel I get so much more back in return. I mean, is that something that you have a sense of, and that other volunteers sort of come back to you with that as well?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. At the beginning of Street Vet, again, it wasn't sort of the reason for creating it or creating the platform, but I love the fact that as a kind of byproduct of it, there are lots of people who will say that their time with Street Vet has actually reconnected them to the profession. They were going to leave, they'd kind of fallen out of love
Mm,
with it, and I guess it comes down to probably quite a few things. Like one is that you don't have to worry about time really. You've got loads of time to talk to people, you've got time to build
yeah,
relationships with people. um Very simple things make such a huge difference to our clients. So microchipping their pet is like such a weight off their mind, and a really easy thing for us to do that has this massive impact, whereas in practice, obviously, that's just a given. People don't really sort of think about the wider ramifications of it. And I guess also, you don't have to worry about money. You don't have to worry about insurance. None of these things. You're just doing what you
mm,
set out to do when you went to vet school or you decided to be a vet nurse. You're just helping someone with their pet, and it just strips it all the other stuff away. And also, Street Vet has become like a big community. So I think people have met like-minded people, people who share their values, and at conference, it's a really lovely thing to sort of see all the friendships and all the long lasting relationships that have come out from people sort of connecting with
Yeah.
other people in the profession. So yeah, I think volunteering has, it certainly helped me at the beginning to reconnect with what I felt like I'd lost from what I needed from the profession. And certainly when you ask the volunteers why they do it, a lot of it comes back to just, not wanting to have a different sort of feel than what they get in the consultation, and feeling a different, like, no pressure, and just
Mm.
feeling valued, to be honest, because the clients will give you that, um
Yeah.
because they're so appreciative of your time and
Yeah.
skills.
The webinar vet has been serving the veterinary community with CPD for over a decade, but did you know we offer so much more than just that? Our sister company, StreetVet, have veterinary jobs all in one place. We serve the full veterinary team, providing permanent and locum roles in practice, whilst also providing a simple and transparent solution to IR35 where needed. We also care about the environment. That's why we plant trees for every one of our practice members. To find out more, please visit simplyvets.com today.
And obviously, there's a journey that people go on. Sometimes people, unfortunately, never leave that street situation. They may end up in a hostel, but obviously, they're not going to do that if they have to give up their dog. So, I think it's fantastic you're doing the hostel scheme. But if we can get people from the hostel into maybe a rental, into a home, of course, then there's another issue because not all landlords want to have animals in their properties, do they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little
How,
bit of
how, do, how
both.
do we get around that?
It's a cycle, and at some point, so street vet's kind of helping at one end, but we get this bottleneck at the other end, because if we can get people off the street and get them into a hostel, some of the hostels' reasons for not wanting to take people with pets is that um those people usually get stuck because they can't get them to move on, and because they can't get them into properties because of the fact that they've got pets. I mean, and that's, not just in the homeless sector, that's like across the whole of the public, really, that people are struggling to get rental with their pets. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think the whole thing goes hand in hand with what Street Vet is doing, because sometimes people end up in the street because of that reason, and sometimes people can't get off the street because of that reason. So, if there's work that we can do as a charity to help people be in the best possible position for getting into rental accommodation once they've stepped out of the hostel, that's what we want to do. So, we provide, as a charity, we provide pet references. We're looking at the hostel scheme now having a responsible dog ownership certificate that people can do while they're in the hostel,
yeah,
sort of show, obviously, I mean, they'll have references from Street Vet to say they've looked after their pet, that it's had veterinary treatment, but also to show that they understand how to train and look after a pet. And then there's been quite a lot of work done um, in the Head to Tails campaign about looking at damages insurance as something that the government should be looking at, as potentially adding that as a caveat for people going to try and rent, so that landlords, if people have their own pet damages insurance, it will increase the number of landlords that are willing to accept pets. And as a charity, again, I mean, these are all things that to aim for and aspire to, but we'd love to be in a situation where any of our clients that were graduating out the hostel, that we could work with an insurance company to provide them with pet damages insurance, so that it stood them in the best position possible to be accepted into a rental accommodation with their pet.
And Jay, tell me a little bit about, you find obviously you go out and you do the general vaccinations, defleeing, deworming, but, a dog that is quite a lot sicker and perhaps can't be dealt with, just on the street. What is the network that you're building up there for people to actually go to a veterinary practice and, leave their dog to go on a drip or whatever?
Yeah, so I mean, the premise of Street Vet is, yeah, anything that can be done in a consulting room we'll do in the street. So we will do everything we possibly can with that owner, and that is because we've got their compliance, we've got their involvement in the case, and it's just, they feel empowered and part of the decision making process. So we will take blood, we'll sample lumps, we'll test urine. We are just about to start with an ultrasound scanner as well, which I'm quite excited about,
Oh,
and do
brilliant.
that kind of stuff. But if, yes, as you say, if there are things that need to be done outside of what we're able to, so if the animal needs more diagnostics, needs to be hospitalized or needs surgery, then we work with a network of practices all over the UK, where we will then usually help them with transport to get there and then fund the treatment once they get there. So we are in a very, I mean, the profession's been incredible, hands down in terms of their support.
Mm,
So we have quite a lot of relationships with different corporates and different vet groups where we have set charity discounts, or we've got funds within them that we can draw down on, or a certain number of pro bono procedures a month. So yeah, we're doing everything we can to ask more and more practices to be involved and be willing to work with us and see our patients,
mm,
because what's happened, Anthony, in the last year, is that the need for our services have gone up by over 250%. And that's because we're just
mm.
getting, I guess it's partly obviously the situation of life. It's also maybe that street vets more well known in this area. So we get emails coming in from all over the country now. So not where we just have teams with people asking for our help. So we now have two full-time RVNs who basically triage these emails, speak to the owners, find out if
Mm,
they're eligible, and then arrange, if they are, for them to be seen at a practice, and arrange, hopefully a charity discount and all of that. So
mm,
that has obviously put our costs up massively, but also we are always looking for practices all over the country that are happy to work with us. So if anyone's listening that thinks their practice would be happy to work with StreetVet, you may not get many cases, but the fact that we've had a conversation and you're happy, and we've gone through our guidelines and things, it just means it makes it
yeah.
so much easier for us to get cases seen, because sometimes they're urgent, obviously, and so having relationships with practices is really, really important.
And it's very much, I always look and I think that, but for the grace of God go I, it's very easy to become homeless, isn't it? A relationship breaks down, you lose your job or whatever. And very quickly people can run out of money and the ability to have an apartment or a flat or a house to live in. So it is, and I think with the cost of living crisis, that's probably partly also fueled in some ways,
Yeah.
it's sad to see that you're growing, but that's fueling it, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the number of people who, for instance, were, I don't know, during COVID, maybe got made redundant, then couldn't get another job,
Mm,
or were had a small business and it just didn't manage to cope, and they're like literally on the phone thinking, I never in a million years thought I'd be in this situation. People don't become
yeah.
homeless until they have exhausted every option that they have going, and that will be sofa surfing with friends, family. It's only when you get past that you end up in that situation, and then you're like, how did I end up here? So we've had a lot of people who
Mm,
are in caravans or boats, or who were in, had jobs and had flats before, and they're, really can't believe where what has happened and where they are having to reach out for support. So yeah, there's been some really
yeah.
um I guess stories that make you think how lucky you are, and yeah,
Mm,
it's been an exponential kind of increase in asks for help, but that will be across all the charities. I know that. So it's just people
yeah.
need help, and they're asking everyone they can, and some are eligible for our support, others, we send on to other organizations that we hope can help. But yeah,
Yeah.
we all know how much of a um yeah crisis there is coming, unfortunately.
Mm. Sometimes not having a dress restricts some of the things that you can then go on and do. So it was quite nice to see. I think it was one of the banks, I'm not going to name just in case I get the wrong name, actually,
Yeah.
offering
No, I
bank
know.
accounts for homeless
Yeah.
people because that's, it's essential, isn't it?
Yeah. All of these things,
Perhaps
I never
before,
really.
No, go on. Sorry, Jade, you carry
No,
on.
no, I was just going to say I'd never really thought, when people are trying to access help, at PDSA or any of the charities, when they're experiencing homelessness, that the first question they'll get asked is about benefits and things that they may or may not have, because if you don't have an address, that's not something you would have. And so, yeah, it was like, okay, so how do you prove you're homeless? And that was how the whole concept of StreetVet really started. Was this conversation where I was like, okay, well, there are charities that could help you, but you don't want to go in and ask for their help because you don't have any proof of your situation. So then that becomes quite obviously intimidating, and you're fearing judgment, fearing rejection, all of those things. So that was when the idea of, okay, well, we can assess eligibility physically on the street with you, and work within the homelessness environment, and that's how it's the better way to do it. But yeah, absolutely. Proving a homeless situation is not easy. And we ask for people, obviously, if we're with them in their situation and we're known within the homeless community, we will know if they're eligible. If it's out with that, you're looking for referrals from soup kitchens, outreach teams. Sometimes the police will refer to us, RSPCA will refer to us. Other vets, will contact us and say, can you help this client? So it's tricky, but it's doable. But that is the difficulty, as you say. If you don't have an address, you don't have a bank account, where's the proof of your situation? It's hard.
Yeah. Maybe just finally to finish, Jade, because obviously these things are frustrating and incredibly sad. But I do like to look at what you're doing and the amazing stuff that you have done and the hope that you bring to so many people. What's your maybe one or two top stories that have made you so proud and have made you carry on? Because you had that sad occasion that almost stopped you carrying on with the work. And what keeps you going, and what are the things, the sort of maybe the big events that have happened that have been really positive and helped to fuel and continue your journey?
I guess like we have just lovely situations where people will get in touch like years later now, and send us a photo of their dog in their garden. We've had a client recently, he's just like sent a photo of his dog in his garden in his new place, just saying, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. I wouldn't have been able to keep my dog. We get quite a few of those. We also get people, I mean, who say, "Oh, I want to make a donation," and you're like, "Listen, that's not what this is about. Just get yourself on your feet." And then they get in touch, and they've been like saving £5 a month for however long since they've managed to get themselves a job, and then they make a £500 donation. Like again,
Yeah,
years after the event. This was one particular client that we operated on a Pyometra, and then we got, yeah, a £500 donation like 2 years down the road. Like people remember, and it
mm,
and it touches them, and they um it just, yeah, those are the things that always stick in your mind, I guess, is the down the road, sort of nice to hear how people are getting on after the event, and they keep in touch. But um yeah, I mean, I've got lots of stories, but of individual
mm,
patients and things. But I think it's and the conference makes me incredibly happy. Just being in a room with all the people that do what we do, and them all
mm.
sort of connecting and sharing stories, and yeah, the feedback that we get after the conference, and it's not anything I ever envisaged happening, or that I was going to be doing in my career. But yeah, I'm incredibly proud. It makes me very proud to be part of the profession. Is the honest answer. Street Vet has really, yeah, introduced me to some incredible people, both in the profession and those experiencing homelessness. So yeah, it's been amazing.
Jade, thank you so much for all that you do. Thanks for the conversation. It's always lovely to chat and to be inspired by you. So, thank you so much. Obviously, as you said, if people do want to get in touch with you, we can leave details at the bottom. But what's kind of a best email address for vets, nurses, etc., to get in contact?
If they email info@streetvet.org.uk, and then they will, but get directed from there, depending if they're interested in their practice getting involved, or individually getting involved, or fundraising, or just questions, whatever. It will get directed from there.
Jade, thanks so much. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Anthony. Take care.
Thanks, Jade. Thanks everyone for listening. This is Anthony Chadwick from the Webinar Vet, and this was VETchat. Bye bye.